So what we'd like to do now is like to play exactly what JJ Redick had to say here on the Zach Lowe podcast, and then we're going to come back and really get into the meat and potatoes of today's show. Take a listen to JJ Redick here.
Have you settled on a starting five?
Yeah. It'll be the starting five that went 23-10 last year.
D'Lo, Reeves, Rui, LeBron, AD.
Yeah.
What do you think? What when we see you and your staff put your stamp on how that lineup plays, offense, defense, whatever, like what are some things you hope that we see, or what are some things you intend? I mean, you've talked about LeBron playing off the ball. A lot of coaches have talked about that. You've talked about shooting more threes. A lot of coaches have talked about that. What do you think is realistically possible?
I think when people hear that in regards to LeBron playing off the ball, it doesn't mean he's not going to have the ball. Like, LeBron is one of the smartest players, and I think using him as a screener and finding ways to get him the ball in specific spots on the floor where he can be a facilitator and a scorer, that's what I mean by being off the ball. I don't mean LeBron's going to walk the ball up and get ball pressured at 94 feet and he's going to run a high pick and roll every time. That's what I mean. That's not how we're going to play. I think in terms of what the offense looks like, there will be a decent amount of movement. The shot profile will hopefully improve. You know, we've talked about ways to create more paint touches. We've talked about ways to shoot more threes. We've talked about some of the leeway that you have to give certain players with their mid-range shots, whether that's in the post or isolation. But hopefully the shot profile improves. I think from a possession standpoint, one of the margins this team created last year and historically with this group has been free throws. Outside of that, there hasn't been a lot of margin creation. So we're going to try to create some margins, one of which is we're really going to emphasize offensive rebounding, corner crashes. I think, I don't know, I'm not comparing that to any previous coach or previous system, but those are some of the things that will look like a team that I coach.
Now that you're in the team, talking about shooting more threes and ways to open the floor, do you have a sense of like what happened to Anthony Davis's jumper since the bubble? And is it just, this is just what it is? You know, every year, like he should shoot X number of threes a game, and it just hasn't been the same since then. Do you just not care and want him to be around the basket?
I have a theory around that. Not one I'm willing to share publicly.
I was gonna say you're on a basketball discussion currently.
No, I have a theory on that. And you know what? If my theory proves correct, I'll share it with you later in the season. But I have a theory on that. Yeah.
Have you had the conversation with AD about the all defense ballot?
Yeah, he had no idea what I was talking about.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like he was like, I didn't even know that. I was like, yeah. No, AD and I, obviously he was in with the USA basketball team. I went to the semifinal game in Paris against Serbia, and I would have stayed for the championship, but it was my kid's birthday party, so I got back for that. But I've spent some time with him. Went to a lovely dinner in Santa Monica a few weeks back. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna empower him as much as he wants to be empowered. I mean, if he wants to be first team All NBA and he wants to be in the MVP conversation all year long, we're going to empower him to do that.
So you heard what JJ Redick had to say there. What are my thoughts on this? First of all, I like the fact that he has a process in terms of things that they were looking at as a coaching staff and as an organization. He laid that out beautifully. That's the thing about JJ. When it comes to talking basketball, explaining basketball, he does that at a very high level, and he seems to understand the game as well. So it seems as if that the Lakers have a legitimate plan in terms of the lineup that they want to deploy. Now, he mentioned something about D'Lo. D'Lo is a player that Laker fans from time to time have complained about. and they've complained about him specifically on the defensive side of the floor. D'Lo is an offensive player. At times, he can be streaky, but he's really an offensive guy. And when he gets going, he can get you 28 points in a playoff game. He can do that. He's good for it, right? He's skilled enough on the offensive side of the floor to do that. His challenge has been the defensive side of the floor, where he's not able to really stay in front of his man. And really, that's the first point of attack on the defense. You're attacking the guy. The ball handler is really attacking the point guard. And if you have a breakdown with your guards and then they just start wreaking havoc, or they run various plays and you have communication breakdowns and then teams are able to score on you. But that's one thing Laker fans have been complaining about. So it looks like that's something that they're going to have to deal with this offseason. Lakers didn't have much activity throughout the offseason. They only drafted 2 rookies, and that was really about it. They drafted 2 rookies. Their roster is pretty much the same. And they changed their head coach. That's about it, right? That's about it. Now, in terms of expecting a different result with more or less the same product, we have to wait and see. And I think that's going to come down to the coaching, the strategy that these guys deploy, how Anthony Davis plays, because I think he's their best player. The media won't say that I think he's their best player. Even that year when they made their run into the playoffs, when they ended up losing to Denver in 4 games, LeBron was out for most of that stretch. It was Anthony Davis. He was putting up beast mode numbers, 38 and 15. It was crazy, right? And it was clear to see that he's clearly their best player. Even if you look at that first round matchup between themselves and the Denver Nuggets last season, in the playoffs, it was quite clear to see that AD was the difference in that entire. Like, he's the one that teams have a hard time guarding when he's offensive minded. And last year, there are games in that playoffs where he should have 50 points or 45 points, where he would be hot in the first half. He had 20 plus points in the first half, and then the team will go away from him. The point guards and the people that have the ball in their hand, they will do a concerted effort to not get him the ball. And then Anthony Davis will do himself no favors by actually going out there and demanding the ball. Is that something that JJ Redick is going to focus on and implement this season? Because if we're being honest, if the Lakers want to experience any real success, they are going to have to make Anthony Davis